I
I
did. I did.
Yeah, it was Sim. It
ACL
was me
Brown
last
1, 2,
time,
3.
but I think it was Sim.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead and mute.
Yes.
We are recording now. Thank you
Okay.
for the reminder.
ACL
And
Brown 1, 2, 3.
let's get back into James and the Giant Peach. Chapter 5, here we go. The next moment, James was running back toward the house as fast as he could go. He would do it all in the kitchen, he told himself, if only he could get in there. Oh, we did chapter 5, didn't we?
Yeah, we supposed
My
to do
mistake.
6, 7, and 8.
No, we didn't. No, we didn't.
Yeah,
I don't think we did.
Nope, we're on chapter 6. You're right.
Oh.
Chapter
Okay.
6. Sponge, come here at once and look at this. At what? It's a peach, Aunt Spiker was shouting. A what? A peach right up there on the highest branch. Can't you see it? I think you must be mistaken, my dear Spiker. That miserable tree never has any peaches on it. There's one on it now, Sponge. Look for yourself. You're teasing me, Spiker. You're making my mouth water on purpose when there's nothing to put into it. Why, that tree's never even had a blossom on it, let alone a peach. Right up on the highest branch, you say. I can't see a thing. Very funny. Ha, ha, ha. Good gracious me. Well, I'll be blowed. There really is a peach up there. Oh, a nice big one, too, Aunt Spiker said. A beauty, Aunt Sponge cried out. At this point, James slowly put down his chopper and turned and looked across the two women who were standing underneath the peach tree. Something is about to happen, he told himself. Something peculiar is about to happen at any moment. He hadn't the faintest idea what it might be, but he could feel it in his bones that something was going to happen soon. He could feel it in the air around him, in the sudden stillness that had fallen upon the garden. James tiptoed a little closer to the tree. The ants were not talking now. They were just standing there, staring at the peach. There was not a sound anywhere, not even a breath of wind, and overhead the sun blazed down upon them out of the deep blue sky. It looks ripe to me, Aunt Spiker said, breaking the silence. Then why don't we eat it? Aunt Sponge suggested, licking her thick lips. We can have half each. Hey, you, James, come over here at once and climb this tree. James came running over. I want you to pick that peach up there on the highest branch, Aunt Sponge went on. Can you see it? Yes, Auntie Sponge, I can see it. And don't you dare eat any of it yourself. Your Aunt Spiker and I are going to have it between us right here and now, half each. Get on with you. Up you go. James crossed over to the tree trunk. Stop, Aunt Spiker said quickly. Hold everything. She was staring up into the branches with her mouth wide open and her eyes bulging as though she had seen a ghost. Look, Sponge, look. What's the matter with you? Aunt Sponge demanded. It's growing. It's getting bigger and bigger. What is? The peach, of course. You're joking. Well, look for yourself. But my dear Spiker, that's perfectly ridiculous. That's impossible. No, that can't be right. Yeah, great Scott, the thing really is growing. It's nearly twice as big already, Aunt Spiker shouted. It can't be true. It is true. It must be a miracle. Watch it. I am watching it. Great heavens alive, Aunt Spiker yelled. I can actually see the thing bulging and swelling before my very eyes. Chapter 7. The two women and the small boy stood absolutely still in the grass underneath the tree, gazing up at this extraordinary fruit. James' little face was glowing with excitement. His eyes were as big and bright as two stars. He could see the peach swelling larger and larger, as clearly as if it were a balloon being blown up. In half a minute, it was the size of a melon. In another half a minute, it was twice as big again. Just look at it growing, Aunt Spiker cried. Will it ever stop? Aunt Sponge shouted, waving her fat arms and starting to dance around in circles. And now it was so big, it looked like an enormous butter-colored pumpkin dangling from the top of the tree. Get away from the tree trunk, you stupid boy, Aunt Spiker yelled. The slightest shake and I'm sure it'll fall off. It must weigh 20 or 30 pounds at least. The branch that the peach was growing upon was beginning to bend further and further because of the weight. Stand back, Aunt Sponge shouted. It's coming down. The branch is going to break. But the branch didn't break. It simply bent over more and more as the peach got heavier and heavier. And still it went on growing. In another minute, this mammoth fruit was as large and round and fat as Aunt Sponge herself, and probably just as heavy. It has to stop now. It can't go on forever. But it didn't stop. Soon it was the size of a small car and reached halfway to the ground. Both ants were now hopping around and around the tree, clapping their hands and shouting all sorts of silly things in their excitement. Hallelujah! Ant Spiker shouted. What a peach! What a peach! Terrifico! Magnifico! Splendifico! What a meal! It's still growing! I know, I know! As for James, he was so spellbound by the whole thing that he could only stand and stare and murmur quietly to himself, "Oh, isn't it beautiful? It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." "Shut up, you little twerp," Ant Spiker snapped, happening to overhear him. "It's none of your business." "That's right. It's got nothing to do with you whatsoever. Keep out of it. Look, it's growing faster than ever now. It's speeding up. I see it, Spiker. I do. I do." Bigger and bigger grew the peach, bigger and bigger and bigger. Then at last, when it had become nearly as tall as the tree that it was growing on, as tall and wide, in fact, as a small house, the bottom part of it gently touched the ground, and there it rested. "It can't fall off now," Aunt Sponge shouted. "It's stopped growing," Aunt Spiker cried. "No, it hasn't." "Yes, it has. It's slowing down, Spiker. It's slowing down, but it hasn't stopped yet. You watch." There was a pause. "It has now." "I believe you're right. Do you think it's safe to touch it?" "I don't know. We'd better be careful." Aunt Sponge and Aunt Spiker began walking slowly around the peach, inspecting it very cautiously from all sides. They were like a couple of hunters who had just shot an elephant and were not quite sure whether it was dead or alive. And the massive round fruit towered over them so high that they looked like midgets from another world beside it. The skin of the peach was very beautiful, a rich buttery yellow with patches of brilliant pink and red. Aunt Sponge advanced cautiously and touched it with the tip of one finger. "It's ripe. It's just perfect. Now see here, Spiker, why don't we go and get us a shovel right away and dig out a great big hunk of it for you and me to eat?" "No, not yet." "Why ever not?" "Because I say so." "But I can't wait to eat some," Aunt Sponge cried out. She was watering at the mouth now, and a thin trickle of spit was running down one side of her chin. "My dear Sponge," Aunt Spiker said slowly, winking at her sister and smiling a sly, thin-lipped smile, "there's a pile of money to be made out of this, if only we can handle it right. You wait and see." Chapter 8. The news that a peach almost as big as a house had suddenly appeared in someone's garden spread like wildfire across the countryside. And the next day, a stream of people came scrambling up the steep hill to gaze upon this marvel. Quickly, Aunt Sponge and Aunt Spiker called in carpenters and had them build a strong fence around the peach to save it from the crowd. And at the same time, these two crafty women stationed themselves at the front gate with a large bunch of tickets and started charging everyone for coming in. "Roll up! Roll up! Only 1 shilling to see the giant peach." "Half price for children under 6 weeks old." 6 weeks old. "One at a time, please. Don't push. Don't push. You're all going to get in. Hey, you come back. You haven't paid." By lunchtime, the whole place was a seething mass of men, women, and children, all pushing and shoving to get a glimpse of this miraculous fruit. Helicopters were landing like wasps all over the hill, and out of them poured swarms of newspaper reporters, cameramen, and men from the television companies. "It'll cost you double to bring in a camera," Aunt Spiker shouted. All right, we don't care." And the money came rolling into the pockets of the two greedy ants. But while all this excitement was going on outside, poor James was forced to stay locked in his bedroom, peeping through the bars of his window at the crowds below. "The disgusting little brute will only get in everyone's way if we let him wander about," Aunt Spiker had said early that morning. "Oh, please, I haven't met any other children for years and years, and there are going to be lots of them down there for me to play with, and perhaps I could help you with the tickets." "Cut it out," Aunt Sponge had snapped. "Your Aunt Spiker and I are about to become millionaires, and the last thing we want is the likes of you messing things up and getting in the way." Later, when the evening of the first day came and people had all gone home, the ants unlocked James' door and ordered him to go outside and pick up all the banana skins and orange peels and bits of paper that the crowd had left behind. "Could I please have something to eat first? I haven't had a thing all day," No, they shouted, kicking him out of the door. We're too busy to make food. We are counting our money. But it's dark. Get out and stay out until you've cleaned up the mess. The door slammed. The key turned in the lock. End of chapter 8. Goodness gracious me.
Is brutal.
You know, Roald Dahl, he knows how to paint he knows how to describe really terrible people. He does it really well and makes them as bad can be. So if you noticed anything about what I said before I started reading, an event happened in Charlotte's Web where everybody came pouring in because of some pig. And now an event in this book had everybody pouring in because of a giant peach. So your job today is to compare and contrast those to show the differences and the similarities between both events. So I went through the agenda. I went through James and the Giant Peach. Now we're going to look at one more thing. That is
This. What is this?
right here. Okay, let me shrink this down a little bit. There you go. We went through these yesterday. Again, the poem today, I want to be based upon that beautiful video that I sent you. It has classical music. In the background is music and literally thousands of paintings. The other thing is, show your parents. It's very relaxing and it's perfect just to sit and watch. It's so beautiful. But today, the elements of poetry, we want to look at rhyme. And of course, you know, not all poems rhyme, but most of them have rhymes in them, either at the end or in the middle. And they all use alliteration and assonance, and they all have sounds that are similar. That makes the poem flow. So if you have trouble coming up with rhymes for your poem, I'm going to recommend a site for you, and I'll probably post it on Teams. It's called Rhyme Zone. The word rhyme and then just the word zone, and you can enter in any word in there, and it will show you all the rhymes that rhyme with that word. It's a great site and will help you a lot. So use the Rhyme Zone. For rhythm, every poem has a different rhythm. And in your mind, you can go back to, listen to the rhythm here. Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forest of the night. What immortal hand or I could frame thy fearful symmetry? And then you have the rhythm scheme. Under the spreading chestnut tree, the village smith he stands. The smith, the mighty man, is he with large and sinewy hands. So every one of the poems that you read that has any kind of rhythm scheme will have a different rhythm. So as you are writing your poem and you want it to have rhythm, find a poem in one of your books, you know, on one of the clever sites, the book that you were supposed to check out on poems, and try to find a poem that has good rhythm. And that will help you make rhythm for your poem too.
There's also that one rhythm that's like did it, that one.
There's just all kinds of rhythms. Finally,
Yeah, there's a lot.
is complete as I wake up to my breakfast treat. Waffles, pancakes, eggs, and bacon. I'm so hungry, I ain't faking. Gimme grub, so hot and yummy. Fill my ever-growing tummy. You hear the rhythm there. Similes are like metaphors, except you use the word like or as. So it's all metaphorical language, but if you use the word like or as, you're creating a simile. If you don't use those two words, technically you're writing a metaphor. So metaphors and similes are all about comparing something to something else and learning through that. For example, I can say, if you don't understand what skin is, if you don't understand what bark is, I can say, well, you have skin on your body. Bark is like the skin of a tree. So that's metaphorical language.
You're still recording.
Style, I know, good. Style is the way the poem is written. That means what kind of poem is it? Is it a haiku, a cinquain? Is it a ballad? What kind of poem are you reading? And then finally, the symbols. You can look up symbols on the internet. These are just a few symbols right here.
Would you draw?
If you have a
the symbol?
ladder in your poem, it usually symbolizes a connection between something here and something up in the sky or up in heaven. A broken mirror can symbolize death or separation. Black can symbolize evil. So look over your elements and look at the poem. I'm sorry, look at the video with the music and